I, 20 female, had been with my boyfriend for almost 3 months. I just started staying at his apartment recently for overnights. He's my first real boyfriend. I live at home with my family, and we're very open. I mostly walk around in a shirt and my underwear, and it's not an all-girls household. I have a dad and 2 brothers, ages nearly adult and mid-teen. I also did it growing up, and I also have an older brother. If guests stopped by unannounced growing up, so be it. They'd see us in our bedwear. It's normal for me, and I guess I expected other people to do it. As you can imagine, I did this at my boyfriend's apartment when it was just the 2 of us, which he loved. Then 2 days ago, his brother stopped by, and I came out of the shower in a t-shirt and Cheeky's underwear, but not too Cheeky's, only exposed a little. When my boyfriend saw me, he immediately whispered to me to put on some pants, which I did. After his brother left, he was super angry and asked if I was trying to seduce his brother or something. I told him I didn't mean anything by it, just that I walk around like this at home. And he said, well, not at his home, and not when we have guests. He told me I looked like I was trying to strut it for his brother. I apologized, but he was super upset and went to sleep early, which isn't like our regular sleepovers since I stay over so rarely. It's been 3 days, and he hasn't asked me to sleep over again. Am I the idiot? Edit. I didn't know he was stopping by, but I heard him while in the shower, so I knew he was there. You heard his brother was there, and you still got cheeky? No pun intended. I'm gonna say you are the idiot. While you might be comfortable with this at home, you have to have some common sense to understand that you're not at your home. You were aware his brother was there. And no, it's not normal to prance around in your underwear in front of guests. If your dad's male friend stopped by and you just came down from the shower in a shirt and underwear, and your dad was cool with that, I personally find that maybe a little weird. I understand growing up around family doing that and how that may be okay. But whenever anyone came around who wasn't immediate family to visit, pants on. It was more of a respect thing too. I mean, wow. If you don't know the difference between wearing just a t-shirt and underwear around your family versus in front of your boyfriends of 3 freaking months, no less, brother, you're way too immature to be having sleepovers at anyone's house. This is way too immature and clueless, coming from a 20-year-old. My husband and I, both 25, are expecting a baby together. I need some help with my family over the name. Background: I don't share the same mom as my siblings. My parents had me, and my mom chose my name. It's not your typical name. It's a nature name, which she also had, and isn't one of the common types like Lily or Rose, for example. My parents bickered over my name according to Dad, and Mom chose my first name, while Dad chose my middle name. My parents' marriage wasn't great, and by the time my mom died when I was 5, Dad had met my stepmom, Jane. For a while after my dad and Jane moved in together, they asked me if I would like to use my middle name, Claire, instead of my first name, Acacia. I didn't want to use my middle name, and Dad was a little upset, but they let it drop. My dad and Jane were more compatible with their naming preferences, and my siblings' names were more expected: Elizabeth, James, Hannah, Michael, etc. My name got comments, and I proudly told people my mom named me. It wasn't easy for Jane to hear, and my family didn't love it. I love my family, but I was always proud of being named by my mom, and never cared that I stood out. I never wanted to be more like them, or blend in with them better. It was a connection to my mom that made me proud. When I was younger, I used to talk about carrying on with nature-themed and more uncommon names when I had kids. Based on that, my family questioned, when we told them I was pregnant, if we planned to do just that. We do, but we didn't tell them that. We told them we would discuss names and announce them after our baby was born. My family made suggestions. Jane made suggestions that she thought were darling and would blend in so beautifully with the family. I told them we didn't need the names and asked them to stop suggesting them. Talk of the baby shower and planning on that has brought this more to the focus for my family. They told me they felt we should take their thoughts on board, and my dad said I should consider not letting my baby's name stand out among theirs the way mine did. My siblings wanted me to consider Jane and how she would feel if I copied my mom's style and stayed far away from hers when she had been raising me for years and hearing me bask in the joy of people knowing my mom named me. I reached the ends of my rope and told them all that they don't get a say on my baby's name and that I don't want my child's name to blend in with theirs, that it doesn't matter the way they seem to think and the way they make it sound. It's like telling me I have to choose between them and my mom. More accurately, Jane and my mom. They told me I was callously dismissing their feelings, what this meant to them, and what message I was sending to them. They said I started it years ago by clarifying that I wanted to name my kids like my mom named me. Am I the idiot? Your dad got to name his children. Your stepmom got to name hers. They don't get another bite at the apple because they've aged out of baby making. So no, not the idiot. Also, them taking your love for your mother as an insult to your stepmother is insane. I know a lot of times that's how stepfamilies feel, but your mom still matters, and maintaining a connection to her memory, or not, is entirely up to you and has nothing to do with anyone else. I seriously want to know when baby naming became a group activity. Jesus! To be frank, I knew that your family were weirdos and automatically in the wrong in whatever situation they were in, the moment you said they tried to force a 5-year-old to use a different name, like you were a rehomed puppy. Please have way less contact with them. They're not good people. I, 37 male, have 2 children, my son, a young teen, and my daughter, mid-teens. My wife was the one who came up with the names of our kids, as I never had strong opinions on a baby name. My wife decided to name our son after her great-grandfather. I never questioned it, and I never bothered to learn more about him, which, looking back, was a mistake. A few months ago, our son was at a party with his friends from baseball, and they were sharing a TikTok with each other. One of the boys shared a TikTok about an almost name, basically like it sounds, what your parents almost named you. One of my son's friends asked about my son's name, and he mentioned who he was named after. The boy decided to type the name into Google and scroll through the results until he found something interesting. My wife's great-grandfather was a state legislator in the southern U.S. before the Civil Rights era. As you may have guessed from that, he was a segregationist and voted in favor of bills to maintain segregation. When we picked up our son from the party, he started to yell at us, and we had to calm him down. He asked why we would name him after a bad guy like his great-grandpa. This started arguing in the car, and we discussed it when we got home later that night. Our son told us he talked to his friends and was changing his name, which was final. My wife was a bit upset. She grew up here in the South, while I'm originally from a hippie little town in New England. My wife has become a lot more accepting since we met, but this is still a bit hard for her. She eventually accepted it, though, and moved on. We now refer to a name chosen by our son with the help of his friends. His classmates at school have started to use it, and while he's had some issues, it hasn't been terrible. One of my son's friends is a trans boy, and he's had it worse, though my son and his other friends always work on protecting the boy from bullying. My son's new name is one he's proud of and named after someone he looks up to. Recently, he got some items with his new name, like a men's necklace and a sign in his room. The issue is, a few days after he got the items with his new name 2 weeks ago, our daughter ruined them by breaking the chain on the necklace and banging his sign. Our daughter doesn't like the name change, saying her brother's just being a sensitive zoomer and something about boys being too weak these days. Our daughter has said edgy stuff like this in the past year or so, even when we condemn her. As a result of the damage, my wife and I told her we were suspending her allowance until the price of these damages was paid back. Our daughter's saying we are unfair to her and has apologized for what she did. My wife went on her Facebook moms group to ask for help, and most of the moms agreed we were too hard on her. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Your daughter purposefully broke items meaningful to her younger brother because she disagreed with something that had no actual impact on her. Suspending her allowance to pay for replacements is a perfectly fair and logical consequence. As a teen, she must understand that apologizing doesn't make everything go away. She committed vandalism. The consequence of vandalizing someone else's property is that you have to pay restitution. This is an entirely normal consequence. It's not like she tripped and fell and knocked the sign over. She intentionally destroyed it, and paying to replace it is perfectly appropriate. Ironically, she accuses her brother of being too weak, but she can't take the consequences of her actions. That seems par for the course for people who call others weak. Have you asked your wife why she would name your son after her great-grandfather? If she loved her great-grandfather enough to name a child after him, she knew what he was up to. However, you are allowing your young teen son to make decisions he's not ready to make. He's named what he is, and he can change it as an adult. I, female 27, had my first baby a few days ago. My birth went well, but I'm still recovering, in quite a bit of pain, and have been very sensitive emotionally since giving birth. My husband, 27, and I told our families that we'd likely have no visitors for the first 1 to 2 weeks, just to set expectations. But privately, we decided to play it by ear and see how we felt. Our second day home with our baby was rough on me, and all I wanted was for my mom to comfort and help me. So my husband and I decided to call my mom and have her come over. She was such a significant help, both emotionally and with the baby. So we had her come by every other day since. She went above and beyond to help us. Also, my bestie and her husband live down the street and have been dropping off meals and treats and walking our dogs for us. But I don't consider that visiting as much as favors and errands. Mother-in-law found out about my mom's visits and was very upset. So we decided to have her over for a brief visit, day 6 postpartum. She said they'd bring food and arrived around dinner time. I have celiac disease, so I can't eat gluten. Mother-in-law brought homemade lasagna, pasta salad, muffins, and 2 types of cookies, all full gluten, and explained to me that she was sorry, but she had limited notice and only had time to make my husband's favorites. I immediately started crying, and my husband thanked his mom but took me to the other room. He told me he'd take care of it and ordered a delivery on the spot. I composed myself, introduced mother-in-law and father-in-law to the baby, and then mother-in-law made another comment about how she wished she could have brought food for me, but it was just so time-consuming and burdensome to make things gluten-free. I snapped and told her she was rude and told her I was angry. Toward the end of the visit, my BFF's husband knocked on the door to come walk our dog, and to my surprise, he made us a homemade gluten-free tiramisu. I started crying again and thanked him profusely, and he told us it was no problem and surprisingly easy to make. Mother-in-law was angry. She realized that they'd been coming by and started complaining about how wrong this all was because she had to wait 6 days to see the baby and was faced with my anger. My husband took my baby from her, and father-in-law snapped at her to drop it. They stayed and chatted for a short while, and when Bestie's husband came back to drop our dog off, I sent him home with one of the batches of cookies mother-in-law brought, which upset mother-in-law. Mother-in-law's been texting and calling and trying to rally people against me since. My husband has my back and even went the next day to drop off almost all the rest of the gluten food to our friends, and he told me to block mother-in-law's number if she kept harassing me. I don't feel like the idiot, but I'm also highly emotional and sensitive to everything right now, and I'm not sure if I'm reacting to things reasonably at this time. Most of my in-laws are mad at me. Am I the idiot? Mother-in-law brought homemade lasagna, pasta salad, muffins, and 2 types of cookies, all full gluten. I'm a celiac, and I laughed. She made all that, but didn't have time to make one gluten-free thing? BS. She did it intentionally because she was mad your mom got to meet the baby before her. You are not the idiot. God bless that dear lady. She tried. The impression I get is that, as well as making everything about herself, Mother-in-law doesn't believe OP really can't have gluten. Her making so much with gluten, all her son's favorites, and then ranting about how hard and time-consuming it is to make anything gluten-free sounds like she's blaming OP for not eating the food, as if OP is deliberately unreasonable expectations. I didn't get that impression at all. Mother-in-law 100% believes daughter-in-law has celiacs, but she deliberately made everything with gluten specifically so that OP couldn't eat it, purely to spite her for not letting her see the baby sooner. Mother-in-law is rude as heck. She only had time to make her son's favorites. I'm 10 years postpartum, and I'm so mad at your story. It's like I'm full of hormones too. Heck, that lady and her stupid cookies too. Don't let mother-in-law come over until you've healed. As a matter of fact, don't let her come over at all. On the bright side, OP, you have a wonderful best friend and her husband. I, 23 female, am getting married to my fiancé, 25 male, in November. We're really excited, and the day is fast approaching. I have 5 women being my bridesmaids. One of them is my sister, Millie, 21 female. Millie's always been more of a tomboy growing up, but doesn't have an issue with wearing dresses for formal events. I want my bridesmaids to wear matching dresses, which everyone knew when they accepted. I bought and paid for the dresses. They're a relatively simple style and in a pastel pink color. Millie is now angry, saying she won't wear the dress because it's pink and too girly. She's even threatening not to attend the wedding unless I return her dress and pick out another color. I'm distraught that she'd make such a problem out of a dress color when she knew I wanted the bridesmaids to match. Millie's being dramatic and could deal with wearing the dress for one day. But honestly, my feelings are really hurt that she'd threatened to drop out of the wedding over this. My fiancé thinks I should kick her out of the wedding party before she causes more significant problems closer to or on the day. My parents got involved in this and told me to exchange the dress for the same one in a different color, and that we're both acting like children. Am I the idiot if I told Millie to suck it up and wear the dress if she wants to be a bridesmaid and not budge on the issue? Not the idiot. Whether she's a tomboy is irrelevant. She agreed to be a bridesmaid. This is what you chose. I'd have more sympathy if the style was extremely low cut and it didn't fit a busty woman or something of that nature. Simply hating the color? Deal with it. It's one day and she didn't even have to pay for it. You are the idiot. Do you like your sister? Do you have a good relationship with her that you'd like to keep? Is there a reason you'd ask her to be a part of your wedding, other than your mom said so or vague appearances? You had to have known she wouldn't be remotely comfortable wearing a pastel pink bridesmaid's dress. And even if you didn't know for sure, why wouldn't you have checked with her or asked her to help you pick out the dresses before you chose them? Your sister's upset about the dress, but I'm sure there's more to it. Talk to her. Listen. Find a way for all the women you love to look beautiful that day. This touches on a critical point. You've known your sister her whole life. You didn't think for a second that this might be an issue. At this point, just compromise with your sister and let her wear something different so she doesn't have to feel incredibly awkward all day and then be forced to see photos of herself like that for the rest of her life. Don't force her to be miserable. I'm sure that's not the karma you want on your wedding day. It's a color. It won't change her whole identity to wear pink for one day. Don't budge. She's being so selfish and ridiculous. It's your wedding day, and she's making it about herself. If she wants to make a fool of herself and back out of the wedding over something so childish and stupid, let her. She'll regret it when she looks back years from now.